Hello, heretics and heathens. This is Lilith. I'm here with Renee, and we are Veritas Voices. It's good to be with you all again. I hope you've all been doing well. At last, I think, although there are still many serious things going on in the world, we're going to have to look at a little bit of tweets from batshit believers, which of course has touched on current events, because of course it has. But there's also been some other gems of irony in the mix, and just strangeness, just very, very strange. How are you finding things this week, Renee?
I'm doing good so far. I'm looking forward to the episode because obviously with everything that is going on in the world, I do think we all need a little bit of a laughter. Maybe I can get that out of this, and we also need to distract ourselves in a way, and fist palming is also a good way to distract yourself. So either way, I win.
Yeah. Very true, very true. You're going to want to get your cringe helmets on, have your oven gloves and a strong drink. Everyone ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's you found a delightful little exposition of Christian life from our favorite apologist.
Yeah. He has been featured before on tweets from Batsh believers. He's a famous apologist. Yeah.
Turek? On batshit believers? No.
Yeah.
Surely you jest, sir. Well, please share with us what you found from this paragon of Christian intellectualism.
Yeah, Frank Turek on Twitter had the following to say: if the God who created you and who sacrificed himself for you wanted you to refrain from certain sexual behaviors, would you obey him? Probably there are several people reading this right now who would say no. Your God isn't Jesus. It's your own personal sexual gratification. Yeah. One thing which I immediately asked myself is, if God doesn't want us to engage in acts as sexual behavior, why did he create us with a desire to partake in acts?
You know, I think the first reaction that I need to express to this is, ew. Oh, ew. I mean, you have to grow up in this. You really do, to not realize how completely fucking creepy that is. You think about it this way. God is supposed to be analogous to a parent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, he's analogous to a parent as well as sort of...
Well, yeah, and a lot of other fucked up things. But let's just start with parent.
Yeah.
We'll go from there. What person who is old enough to engage in sexual behavior runs those decisions by or subjects them to the opinion of a parent?
Yeah, that's rather creepy. I mean, obviously, if you seek advice from your parents, you may ask them, but you don't ask your dad, well, Dad, I really like this girl, but can I do that with her? And then he says no, and then
Yeah, you don't say, well, now, am I allowed to? If you are asking if you're allowed to, you're not old enough to be doing sex. Come back later. It's like something Dan Savage said in response to a question: no one who is anything and a half is old enough to be having sex. Like any age and had 23 and a half, 17 and a half. And nobody who's anything and a half is old enough to be having sex.
You mean
because it's just it's an incredibly immature attitude. Yeah. But yeah, the thing is, this is the type of thing that I was taught, not just with sex, but with everything, that if there was anything that you wanted to make your own decision about, and would not submit to the authorita of God, that meant that you were worshiping it as your God and putting it ahead of God. Because remember, in Christianity, there's no such thing as healthy boundaries or personal responsibility or rights or anything, and certainly not consent. And then that means you're making an idol of your sexual gratification or whatever it is, and therefore you are an idolater and deserve to go to hell.
Yeah.
Not kidding.
Yeah, I've heard that as well in the past, that if that I was just worshipping myself, or I was worshipping money, or I was worshipping video games or whatever. They say that a lot. I'm not getting tired of it yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, it's, there are no words sometimes for how fucked up the stuff I used to believe is. But it's true. If you didn't submit whatever it was to the AUTHORITAH, honestly, the more I look back at God from having believed to not believing, the more he looks like that cartoon of Cartman. Did you see South Park?
Yeah.
Okay, because there's the even still, you might be familiar with the meme of this little kid dressed up like a cop going, "Respect the authority!"
I've seen clips of that on YouTube, and I've seen
and it's like God is Cartman. God is a fat, obnoxious cartoon child
with
screaming, "Respect my authority!"
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't actually hold with spanking, but in the case of Cartman/God, spank him and take away his toys. Oh, but I think I would like to also add another perennial favorite of the show, one of my personal favorites, Jiggly Jowls, Pastor John Hagee. Now, this tweet actually is a substitution from another I had, because only 2 hours ago he posted this, and there are no words. There are no words to describe the irony. Pastor John Hagee says, "Satisfaction cannot be found in money, pleasure, or power. It is only found in Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God. Blessed life, money, power, fame, wealth, happiness, satisfaction, encouragement, life, God, inspiration." All hashtags. And in the picture below, it's like every alcoholic is looking for satisfaction. There was a clip of him preaching about satisfaction and people looking for it. And that was the line that it stopped on, which is appropriate because he is pushing an addiction. But the supreme irony, of course, in this is that he is listed as maybe the 12th most successful evangelical pastor in the world.
Yeah.
The Reverend John Hagee has a net worth of $5 million.
Yeah.
Which incidentally is approximately the same net worth as Paula White, the spastic, blonde, plastic evangelical terror that is currently the deranged orangutan's spiritual advisor. And it isn't all personal property either. He's the CEO of John Hagee Ministries. It's a multimedia empire. He has the CEO of a Christian evangelism television. And the national chairman of Christians United for Israel, which, as Christopher Hitchens so eloquently put it, supports Israel as the rope supports the hanging man.
Yeah. And what I also want to say is, back when Tweets from Batch Believers was still Crazy Christian Tweets, I think this was maybe one of our first episodes. I distinctly remember that Hagee was asking people to donate to the church or to donate to him, or he was asking for some kind of financial support. So,
oh, of course. Oh, he's always asking for financial support for his ministry, which largely involves using lucrative media that is also reinforced by Christian advertising, because Christians have this whole other world of pure flick shows and terrible TV and movies and books. It's just awful. It's terrible stuff. It's like just bad rip-off versions of everything, but it's all you're allowed to enjoy, at least if you're an evangelical. So yeah, honestly, it reminds me of a tweet that used to be my pinned tweet, and it was, remember, all the things of this world are nothing compared to God. Jesus truly fulfills everything of your soul. The things of this world are worthless, shadows, rags. Only satisfaction is found in God. On a completely unrelated note, send money.
But what I was trying to say is, for a guy who doesn't find their satisfaction to be in money or power, he sure is after money and power.
Yeah, I know. It's it would be a lot easier to believe if
he was practicing what he preaches.
Yeah, I don't think with those jowls the man has ever fasted a day in his life. Oh, yeah, the greed. The avarice never ends. Shout out if you know what that's a reference to. Just gonna leave that there for our viewers. But yeah, it's John Hagee is a special snowflake.
Yeah.
A special snowflake. But then he is from America, land of the free and home of the criminally insane. Would you like to show us the gem that you found there?
Yeah, this is not actually a tweet, but we did find a photo from a very...
It was tweeted, it counts.
Yeah, it was sent to us. And on the picture we see a car. Yeah, there are all sorts of stickers put on it, like "fuck Antifa" or "white privilege is a myth," or yeah, all sorts of things that seem to indicate that this person might have some racial biases, to put it friendly.
Yeah, the corona cold is a distraction.
Yeah.
You know what the really fucked up thing is? This is one of those true American patriots, and they have Zig Heil, motherfucker, as one of their stickers.
Oh, wow, I didn't even notice that, but
yeah. Well, there's a lot of them. I think for me, the most disturbing, though, is right above the "fuck Antifa" sticker, because, you know, hate those anti-fascists when you're a fascist, is "when all else fails, vote from the rooftops," and it has a picture of a crouching sniper pointing down.
That's, yeah, basically true. I don't agree with you.
Exactly. When all else fails, just, you know, and this is the thing, though, like, what causes mass shootings? It's not enough Jesus. No, it's this shit.
Yeah.
I have never seen "there is no Jesus" shoot people from the rooftops. This is not something I have ever seen. However, "I hate other races" shoot people from the rooftops does appear to be a natural progression of thought. I don't really know what else to call it. It's not really natural, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and of course, this is the type of person who is usually a fan of certain types of white redneck style sports in the US, which is why it was both surprising and sad that it took so long that last week NASCAR banned the Confederate flag, which you see twice on this guy's bumper. Now, are you familiar with the Confederate flag?
I'm not particularly familiar with it, but
Okay,
yeah,
well, you see it there, the cross with the
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Okay. The Confederate flag was the flag of the rebels of the South in the American Civil War, bloodiest war. Thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans died,
yeah,
and it was, they'll try and kind of rewrite it. It's about states' rights and patriotism. No, it was a bunch of people who wanted to keep Black people as slaves.
yeah.
They didn't want to give that up because fuck you. And they were willing to fight to the death for it. And these same people who call everyone else easily triggered snowflakes and want everyone to get over the last election are still carrying the flag of an insurrection that was put down over 100 years ago. And I should also note that the amount of hatred and murder and genocide, this is the flag that is associated with the KKK, with lynching Black people because
Yeah.
reasons. This is essentially the American equivalent of the swastika.
Oh wow, that's
They will absolutely rage at me for making that comparison and say it's completely unjust because they didn't have concentration camps. They just gathered together as a community to murder a Black person every week.
yeah, like that's a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't just a few people doing it, it was everyone doing it. That makes it better. Fucking hell.
Yeah, and it
Anyway,
was soldiers. It
so
was them as private citizens. So
yeah, it's disgusting. And I mean, try and imagine a group of people proudly carrying around swastikas in Germany.
yeah,
I don't see that being okay in your country. I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure, but I think it may even be forbidden by law. I'm not sure, but take for
I
what it is.
think it's illegal. That does sound familiar. But again, you're the lawyer, so will be the lawyer, obviously. You're still, education doesn't happen in a day. But frighteningly enough, so the really wonderful thing is that NASCAR, again, it's disgusting that it took this long, but it is their group that, yeah. So when they made this announcement, a driver called Ray Cicerelli went on Twitter to say, "I'd like to announce that I'm retiring from NASCAR after this season. I cannot drive a car for a league that won't allow my special flag." And there was another one where he tried to pretend it was, no, it's just because you might take away the fans' rights. I'm not happy with that. But I have to say, I love NASCAR's response. Kudos NASCAR on this response. Replying to his announcement, "We actually had to Google who you were. I'm sure your dozen of fans are real sad about your crusade to defend participation trophies."
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, and especially, because conservatives are like, "Stop giving out participation trophies. You got to earn it, blah, 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 blah." And it's like, yeah, you might want to rethink that, genius. So, yes, Ray got burned. In fact, Ray got burned so bad that he has now deleted his Twitter account.
oh, wow.
It seems Twitter responded with a great deal more mockery than he was anticipating. And he, yeah, precious Ray, delicate Ray could not take the heat, so he got out of the Twitter sphere. Truly a loss to all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess he has the ability to stand up for his flag, but can't handle a few haters.
Oh, princess. What's
Sorry.
on your mind, Bronchi? Oh, we're going to need the laugh from that because unfortunately, we have to go on
Yeah.
the female Christian stupidity because remember, stupidity is gender neutral.
Yeah. And this tweet is, again, from a person who has made frequent appearances on our show. It's from the Transformed wife.
Mm-hmm.
She had this to say. What's going on has nothing to do with the color of one's skin. It's about promoting communism and defunding the police. Good is being called evil and evil is being called good. Only God's word has the answers to life.
Right, because as we all know, God's word is strongly against genocide and the abuse of power. Oh, wait.
Yeah. This reminds me sort of the episode from Theoretical Bullshit, Treatise on Morality, because as we all know, God is against the termination of human lives without that consent. Oh, wait, and then all of those Bible verses.
Yeah, except for all the time.
Yeah.
Basically, if you do it without him particularly wanting you to, then bad. But otherwise, you know. Yeah, God is really murder happy. But, you know, I have to say, this has got to be the definition of white privilege. The idea that you could look at what's going on and say it has nothing to do with race. In what universe?
In the alternate Christian universe where reality works the way you want it to work.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't think I can get my brain into that much crazy. I don't think it's going to fit.
Yeah.
Because there is no way that kneeling on a man for 9 minutes and crushing his ability to breathe, and then people rioting in response, and then lynching Black people all across California is somehow not related to race. This is, you have to.
You have to
oh my God.
blind in order to conclude that this has nothing to do with race.
You have to be more than white. You have to be a complete. Well, it takes a certain amount of callousness too. A lack of empathy to look at this and not say, okay, what's really going on? There are a lot of hurt and angry people. You know, let's maybe look a little deeper and see if there's something more systemic going on.
Yeah.
No. It's just because you need to read your Bible more, because that wasn't used as a justification for slavery and beatings and lynchings. Maybe we should get on and ask her whether she recommends the part about how to beat your slave as a good way to address the racial tensions. I'm sure that would be helpful.
Yeah. And as well, within world history, whenever people have read the Bible and have adhered to God's word, everything was fine. There was no violence going on, no racial biases, nothing.
Yeah, it totally wasn't the Dark Ages. And then, of course, I mean, this is the kind of stuff you expect from the transformed wife, because I really think, as disturbing as it is, she does take a biblical view of things.
Yeah.
A completely insane biblical view of things like this.
One thing which you have to applaud of her is that she is consistent. She is a consistent Christian, and therefore, yeah.
She's consistent and absolutely terrible. She's a great example of how fucked up the Bible is. But this is what she has to say about gender, so I can relate to that at least. Women are continually asking me my view on head coverings. Long hair is given as a covering as the word teaches. The main principle of this passage, however, is that, quote, the husband is the head of the wife, unquote. If he wants you to wear a separate covering, then do. If not, then don't. Because remember, your husband should be allowed to decide not only your clothing, but whether or not you cover your head. Because, and again, he is a reflection of God saying, respect my authority.
Yeah. And he has been appointed as sort of the leader of the family. After all, Eve was created as a quote-unquote helper for him out of his rib. Which
It's
totally
just total
happened.
fucking jealousy. You realize this. It's
Yeah.
that women are the source of all life. Every single one of us can look at men and go, excuse me, you wouldn't be here without me. So their response? Well, actually, you were only created to serve us. So shut up. Because we are special, special snowflakes. And God, Jesus, AUTHORITAH reasons.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well,
But
I mean, this is the Bible's view on race and gender. And oh my God, like just my eyes, my eyes. Oh. And then, of course, we have viewer suggestions, which always seem to feature the person we will not feature unless she is a viewer suggestion, partly because we can't stand her and partly because, let's face it, we would have to give her her own show for stupid, crazy bullshit. And I just, I don't think I could bear it.
Yeah. First of all, this tweet was suggested to us by Ali. So thank you, Ali, for that one. I'm glad that you provided us with the following bit of craziness, or you discovered it and we're going to feature it. Basically, this is from She, who shall not be named. But
well, we have to thank Florida Line for so consistently providing those of us who block or are blocked screenshots, and in this case, providing a lovely contrast of the opinions of She Who Must Not Be Named in the most absurd way.
Yeah. But without further ado, let's get into the following tweet. SJ had the following to say: the mass shootings in the US will never end if the killers think they're making names for themselves. The only way to end this is to humiliate them by torturing them in the public view. Cut their fingers off, cut their noses off. This is hard to say, but it's true. Then she got some retort. Everything's meaningless, as said. You honestly think it's a good idea to torture him on public TV? You want kids and the public to be exposed to public torture? Like, that's good for a society. This is such bizarre talk coming from a Christian. And then she said, no, I want him to be tortured, but I don't think we should have to witness it. Yeah.
Torturing them in the public view, but nobody's going to witness it? Or is it just that we won't be forced to witness it? And also, she seems to think this would avoid them making names for themselves.
Yeah.
Because as we all know, being tortured in the public view has never made a name for anyone.
What I want to say about this tweet, because when I first saw this tweet, I'm not sure entirely if I remember correctly, this was that of which I blocked her. I'm not entirely sure. It might have been a different thing, but when I first saw this tweet, I was like, well, what the actual fuck? You actually approve and you advocate for torture?
And
like,
public torture, and not just like to get information, because it doesn't work, but I can at least see someone saying that if they thought it worked and they wanted to, stop a bomb that would kill. No, just like cut their appendages off for shits and giggles.
yeah. And there was actually a case within Germany where the torture was executed, but torture was threatened with in order to get information, in order to save a lost boy. Of that, I would be in favor, because that would be self-defense, or not self-defense, but defense of another person. But this is torture as an act of self-justice, as an act of revenge, as an act of
complete freaking insanity, to be quite honest. And
yeah.
and this is, you gotta love how it's like, as a Christian, you must endlessly browbeat yourself because Jesus was tortured and it's all your fault.
Yeah.
Also, there's endless torture porn in Christianity because,
Yeah.
that's a healthy thing to raise kids on. Torture porn for everyone. And then this leads to this.
One thing which I want to say about this tweet again is this tweet was posted, I think, a few months ago after shooting in America. And like, personally, I don't care that she would advocate this for people who have shot people. Torture isn't cool as an act of punishing people, as an act of enforcing justice, as an act of doing this sort of bullshit. Like, torture is not cool, period.
Yeah, it's
one thing which I also want to say as a side note, because I've had a lecture earlier, and I still have a side open sort of, and I could, if you don't mind, tell people what this kind of action, if it were executed, would result in.
Oh, please. Because I know Germany doesn't have the death penalty anymore because, like most civilized countries, they've abolished that.
Yeah.
Possible exception of traitors, I don't know. So what exactly would torturing people result in?
So what I have to preface this with is there's not actually a torture paragraph in our German law, but there are paragraphs for bodily injuring a person. And in this instance, if you, with intent, cut off body parts of another person, as she advocated, or there are other things like sort of destroying the eye of another person, or
general mutilation. We don't need
general mutilation, basically.
Yeah, we don't need to get into the details, but yeah.
Yeah, but cutting off limbs is a part of it, and if you do that with intent, that's at the very least 3 years in prison, and but it can also be in stronger cases up to 10 years, but at the very least 3 years if she were to do that.
Yeah, in her case, because in her case, I'd say it should be 10 years and probably in a psychiatric hospital with lots of happy pills. Lots and lots of happy pills.
And actually, I would be in favor of that at this point, because if you advocate for this kind of stuff, to my mind, you're
fucked in the head.
You have a really strong tendency towards violence, and I think you are a dangerous person. And I don't know, like, you cannot sort of arrest her for stating her opinion on Twitter or put her in prison, but people like her.
But it might not be a bad idea to put her on a psych watch. I'll just put that out there, because let's face it, this is completely insane. But
her, and she doesn't belong in civilized society. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Well, certainly not near anything sharp or blunt or heavy, or just no. Yeah. Well, anyway, of course, Ali, thank you. Ali was not our only SJ suggestion this month. Jen with one N, aka I Wear Crocs a Lot, thank you. She also decided to share with us SJ's brilliant views on racism, because when I want to know about real detail on racism, I talked to an old white lady from Florida who, yeah. Well, You see, okay, I'm going to read these in order because Jesus died for the forgiveness of everyone's sins. And the Bible makes no mention of race. Why? Because the human race is his concern, and skin color is merely a product of years in hot or cold regions. Which, in and of itself, would actually be a perfectly sane statement. She is right about melanin and skin color and tone. That is correct. Obviously, I don't think about Jesus anything. But for a Christian, that would be a typical thing to say.
What I would say is not purely a product of years in hot or cold regions. It's a product of generations of humans spending time with that region. Like
years on a generational scale, not a personal.
If I were to go to the Antarctic, I wouldn't become pale.
No, well, a little bit because you wouldn't tan as much, but you wouldn't. Your underlying levels of melanin would not change. But again, this is a comparatively sane statement in and of itself. Although it is false that the Bible makes no mention of race, it's very racist. It's just more local tribal racism with a lot of, character assassinations on the Moabites and whatever else.
Good luck getting a Christian to agree with that.
Yeah, well, that would involve the story of Lot's daughters raping him in a cave not being actual factual history, and we couldn't possibly have that. But quite aside from that, the second tweet puts it into a context that just put your oven gloves on. Just do it. I don't believe systemic racism exists. Sorry, but I've yet to find any evidence of it. I do believe racists exist, and that's a big problem. But the laws and policies we have give all equal rights. Also, do you think the minorities in China claim Chinese privilege?
Was that your head?
Ow. How can she think? It's like she hasn't noticed that no matter what's on the books, that law has to be applied by people who, in the case of many areas in the United States, are bigoted, white supremacist, entitled assholes.
Yeah. Like basically the law in and of itself may not be explicitly discriminatory, but you can use the laws in a way that would make them discriminatory by basically giving white person X the minimal amount of punishment, or sort of getting him out of the punishment to begin with by applying a different standard than you would apply to, say, to a black.
Exactly. The ranges available for punishment in different crimes are meant to reflect the severity of the crime and allow you to give some lenience in extenuating circumstances while still recognizing the importance of the law. People in more cases of extremity perhaps should have more leniency, whereas malicious people, but that's not how it gets applied in these ways. It gets applied, you're black, you must be evil, maximum penalty, can we try you as an adult? If you're a child, whatever else.
Yeah.
And then if you're white, oh, well, you just made a mistake. You're a good boy, really, I swear.
Oh, you're white, you did this sort of evil action, but you know what? You did it to a black person. He was kind of criminal anyway. So how can we get you out of this? Let's take a look.
Yeah, let's work with you to make sure your life isn't destroyed by killing someone. Although I have to say, and this is something I've noticed in all people from America, of all races. If they are born and raised in America, there is very often a total ignorance of racial issues outside of their own country. They think that the racist thing in the States, that thing, is exactly what it is everywhere, and that nobody else has a totally separate history of racial issues that has nothing to do with their hang-ups.
Yeah.
Actually, it's really ironic that she mentioned China because China does have racial tensions. China, one of the greatest early civilizations, broke apart and reunified many times, and that reunification was usually somebody becoming emperor and killing all their opponents.
Yeah.
You may have heard of the Han Dynasty. Well, as a result, now the Han people are the largest ethnic group in mainland China. They are about, well, in 2010, they were 91.5% of the population that were classified as Han. And obviously, that would not be quite so clear-cut in all cases. But there is massive Han privilege. They, would be the group who dictate all kinds of societal norms and beauty norms and everything else. And there are actually, when the Olympics were in Beijing, there was a bit of a scandal because, they were not, they had only Han children representing all these other racial groups, within the country, dressed up like them, but not actually being part of that group.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, there is, if you want to call it Chinese privilege, Han privilege in China. This is the thing. There's the Han people and like 55 ethnic minorities. So yeah, actually, there is. And theirs, at least, is actually based on numeric, being overwhelmingly more numerous, whereas in the States, it's more just about holding power over everyone else as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They're just awful. They are terrible, awful, awful people.
Yeah. Like for people like SJ, I have no words. Like I also said earlier that, and I don't want to return to that tweet, but that tweet opened my eyes to her and what kind of a violent person she is. And again, here we see a complete carelessness. We see no empathy at all from her.
Oh, no. SJ doesn't do empathy. She does pity plays if they are in her interest, but that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry to disappoint you, everyone who was counting on the decency of SJ. Alas, you must be disappointed.
Yeah. If you're looking for the decency of SJ, you wind up empty-handed. It's like looking
Very
for
much so.
within a round room. You just won't find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't. I don't even know what to tell you. You're not wrong. All right. I think that's going to have to wrap it up this week. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that sounds like a good idea. That's pretty much all the crazy that I can take. So, yeah.
Oh, Christians. I would say don't ever change, but please change. Please, for the love of all that's ever been holy, change. Oh, my God. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to Ali and Jen for their suggestions. You have given us many a facepalm, and we appreciate it. My forehead less so, but we still appreciate it. In any event, have a wonderful week. Please, during these tumultuous times especially, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and reason bless.